Chris Hagale. I'm Managing Director at Lake Whillans Litigation Finance. Lake Whillans is a commercial litigation funder that invests in commercial disputes, litigations in the United States and Canada, and arbitrations globally.
Hi, I'm Doug Mears with Velocity Medical Receivables Solutions. What we do is we purchase medical claims related to personal injury lawsuit cases directly from the medical providers at time of service related to the case.
Hi, my name is John Cataldi. I'm Managing Partner of the Native American Venture Fund. The Native American Venture Fund is a social impact fund that brings Wall Street or private dollars to the social and economic issues of Native American tribes that benefit in a multiple return for our investment pools.
Scott Fogarty, Managing Partner, Inovez Corporation. Inovez invests in enterprise technology companies, and we sell their products in the India marketplace.
Jim Gale, co-chair of IP litigation at Cozen O'Connor, based out of Miami, Florida and West Palm Beach, Florida. Cozen O'Connor is a nationwide law firm, general practice law firm with 28 offices around the country. Started out in Philadelphia, grew around the country. We have basically a full service firm with over 750 lawyers. I happen to be the chair of, or co-chair of IP litigation. We have about 50 to 60 intellectual property litigators, both certified registered patent attorneys and non-registered patent attorneys who handle all aspects of intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, unfair competition, theft of trade secret, restrictive covenants, etc.
LA Perkins, Pershes in Boca Raton, Florida. We are an intellectual property law firm. We are brand protection strategists.
Adam Hodkin Stage Ward, Managing Partner. Hodkin Stage Ward is a litigation firm located in Boca Raton, Florida.
Brennan Lean, Lean PLLC attorney. We're a law firm. We are in-house counsel to half dozen clients in the state of Florida. We handle all sorts of matters from employment to healthcare, advisory work, and we handle their corporate work as well.
I met a whole host of people. I've met attorneys, I've met other litigation funders, I've met capital providers and other investors in the industry.
Met a lot of executives from different funding entities. Also met a lot of owners and recipients of funding in the litigation space in particular, as well as some vendors that basically provide services that could be attractive to companies that are in the litigation funding space.
I met attorneys who are that may need the funding. I met litigation funders who have been working in the space for several years, and it was great meeting everybody.
It's really a mixed bag. You have practicing, non-practicing attorneys, you have funders, you have direct investors, you have fund-to-funders. Again, it's a real meeting of the minds, and this industry itself is it's very nascent. It's very early in stage. So the people here will most likely be the leadership of tomorrow within the litigation funding space.
So I met people who are funding and leading the legal process.
I've met, well, there are lawyers, and funders, litigation funders. I don't remember their titles, but I was impressed that it sounded like there were senior people here, decision makers.
Well, first of all, the people that I met here were intelligent people. So regardless of whether they're attorneys or venture capital people, they were all intelligent people, and I learned something from almost every one of them.
Well, I've met a bunch of lawyers, I've met a bunch of litigation funders, and we've had a pretty interesting dialogue and some insights and perspectives that I wasn't expecting, so it's been a win for me to be here. Well, for sure, one thing that I'm going to do is consider litigation funding in a broader range of cases. And knowing that there are a lot of people here with different specialties and subsets that I wasn't aware of before, even though I've had litigation funding before, is important.
You know, I came without knowing anything about the category, And I think that it is really for investors who are excited about breaking new ground, but it has room to go to be attractive for less sophisticated, less knowledgeable investors.
Actually, it did give me some ideas on how to potentially better financially structure and mitigate some of our risk within the creation of our opiate litigation fund, which is a new and upcoming fund, which is going to be servicing both tribes, tribal governments, and those social communities that's been greatly not just traumatized, but torn apart based upon this truly nasty epidemic.
Yes, I did. I was not very familiar with how it all worked, and the wheels are turning in my head with respect to growth of the firm and potentially taking on some cases that I didn't take previously due to the cash requirements for them and the inability for the plaintiffs to be able to pay for it.
I think some of the interesting things that came up today, certainly a lot of information about the growing market of litigation funding. Seems to be expanding pretty rapidly. Learned a little bit about some of the tools that other companies are using from an analytics perspective, and really learned a lot more about the expanding availability of funding.
I think that we have some cases that are eligible for this funding, and that will be helpful in terms of providing greater litigation abilities.
Well, a couple of the ideas were that for my own firm, we are a fairly entrepreneurial firm, and we handle cases on a contingency fee basis. And the thought arises, why use all of the firm's money to go ahead and handle the work on a contingency fee basis when you can go ahead and tap the pockets of investors who are interested in funding it. You may be giving up a little piece of it at the end, but you're also not using your own resources to go ahead and fund a piece of litigation, particularly extensive litigation.
The amount of money that's available. The amount of money that's available for litigation funding for the right opportunity is a wow.
Yeah, I think primarily the wow factor is just how many different entities there are out there that are looking to kind of do the exact same thing that we're doing, which is safely identify opportunities to deploy money for often their LPs, and really just kind of the whole emerging and continuing to emerge market that's out there for litigation funding in particular.
I think that there were a few points where I not only said wow to myself, but I wrote them down. And they were typically points that were being made by the panelists, by the speakers. In particular, one of the ones was the disclosure of the underwriting by the venture firm or venture company to the defendants and its counsel, because what it does is it puts you on equal footing. No longer are you representing the small guy, you're representing the small guy who's got a bank behind him or her. And so that was like, wow, I can see that forcing a settlement much more quickly than without a disclosure of that information.
The early stage of the litigation funding market I thought was particularly interesting. And I also thought it was interesting that from the defense side and from in-house counsel side, it has been not used as much, and I think the interest and the demand is there in terms of essentially, providing greater access to capital and minimizing risk.
The insights that I was able to hear about during the panel discussions, both from the attorneys and from the funders, and the questions that they asked, the perspectives were interesting.
The experience of speed networking is meeting other people at the conference in a short 4 or 5 minute intervals and asking them what they do and just kind of exchanging information. It was an interesting experience that I found very beneficial.
It was essentially speed dating. We had 5 minutes or so, and we were able to touch base with all the folks in the room, and it was very helpful to get to know their stories and to hear their perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through speed networking situations before, and it's kind of like a rapid introduction and a chance to really tell your story and listen closely to the story of others, and hopefully come away with something that you want to follow up on later. There's not much time during the actual discussion to do more than just learn whether there is potentially an interest that should be followed up on later.
I didn't like it in concept, but I liked it in practice, and I think I recommend that you do that. And I think it's a good aspect of the event. Well, you get to know people in a very short period of time, and you're forced to talk about what's important to you. So people are settling on talking about things that they need you to know, and that makes it effective.
I've never been to a speed networking session before today, so this was new for me. But it's being able to project your elevator pitch and listen to their elevator pitch and have some type of meaningful dialogue in a very, very, very compressed amount of time. And I remember I started talking about what we did, and I probably had a little bit of a run-on in my conversation, and then I'm hearing a glass ting to go to the next chair. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know anything about you. So it kind of put me in a different mindset to hit important topics, pop them out there almost like a quick elevator pitch, and hopefully listen twice as much as you speak to really get a good amount of knowledge out. But a fantastic way to meet a lot of people at the event in a very short time.
It's like speed dating. Not that I've ever speed dated, but it's meeting a number of people on a more focused basis, on a networking business basis, as opposed to just bumping into someone with a beer in their hand and making small talk. The purpose of the networking is to exchange information about each other, and it was done. It accomplished its goal. The only problem with the speed networking was it wasn't long enough. I would have preferred an extra couple of minutes with each person.
It was great. It was an opportunity to basically work the room in a formatted way where I got to sit and speak with people and share what I do and hear what they do. And I found out a lot of different funding companies and different things that people do that I wasn't even aware was available.
I think that we'll get some deals done. There's some, you usually work with who you like, and I met a lot of people here that I like, has great ideas. I'm so happy to be, again, the dumbest guy in the room. So, with that said, it's a great, target-rich, deep environment. The organizer I've known for, almost over a decade now. And I gotta say, this is a class act event.
Well, you never know. I mean, probably not on site, but down the road, you never know. That's the best you can hope for usually, is when you come to an event like this, you really form some nice relationships that you can pursue after we leave and have a chance to reconvene at a later date.
It's sort of not my category because I do technology stuff and I'm very focused, and that is sort of my argument for how participants in the market will succeed is by focusing and showing competitive advantage in specialty areas.
It's going great so far. I've met a lot of individuals who specialize in funding of companies much like ours, as well as other recipients of funding that are involved in the litigation space.
The event is fantastic. It's not just an event where the panelists speak and the attendees listen. It's highly interactive, highly engaging. Litigation finance is something that is greatly needed upon especially within the member base of a lot of the tribal nations who unfortunately don't receive the legal representation or even know of their rights. So, being able to create a structure, a business, a fund that would help empower them to gain not just social justice, but even more so, be able to provide them the capital base so they can actually gain monetary value for their damages, which otherwise they wouldn't have the ability or avail to do so.
The event has been great, very informative, a lot of new information, and I've met a lot of really interesting people that I hope to connect with.
I thought the conference was great. I thought that I learned a lot. I learned a lot more than I knew I could learn on the topic. It's sort of one of those things that you don't know how much you don't know. And for that reason, I really felt that it was worthwhile and useful. And in fact, I think that a lot of people don't realize that this type of funding is out there, and I think that it needs to be marketed more significantly. I think it needs to be marketed more significantly to attorneys, to clients, to companies, because it's a tremendous alternative to trying to handle a case on your own without external financing.
It's an extremely exciting area, but it has a lot of growing up to do.
The event was great. I didn't know a whole lot about the litigation funding coming here. It was informative, and I think that it's something that my clients and I will be discussing in the future.
The event's been great so far. Great panelists, great attendees, very informative.
Anybody that either actually has funds to deploy and would be interested in placing them with a potential servicer or someone that really understands litigation funding, or anyone who would be a recipient of potential funding, I think would be a great opportunity.
My commercial litigator friends and private equity principals.
I'd recommend the event to just people generally interested in the litigation funding space.
I would recommend the event to attorneys that are looking to take contingency fee cases and are concerned about the ability to fund those cases.
I would recommend it to attorneys. I'd recommend it to litigation funders. I think it's a great way to connect.
Just about any lawyer that deals in, any patent lawyer that deals in litigation, any lawyer that deals in large cases, whether they be contingency or non-contingency cases where the potential awards are, I would say in excess of $5 to $10 million, particularly clients that are in the small to mid-level corporate sphere where they don't have a large litigation budget, but they do have a good case.
Several areas I think that this event can be packaged to. If you're an attorney looking to specialize in a high growth field, if you're a politician or a lobbyist looking to broaden the category of finance, especially when it comes to supporting individual rights in a litigation space, whereas the actual plaintiff couldn't otherwise afford their case or their medical care without having this additional funding coming to them. And also those that within the legal profession that are looking to have a little bit more dry powder in their arsenal from a standpoint of capitalization. There's never a day that whether you're a company or in this case a boutique, a legal firm, that you could ever always say, well, you know what, I have way too much money. That will never come a day, because that will just mean you need to have more scalability, more caseload, more something to help perpetuate your business to the next level, unless you just want to remain stagnant and boutique. And interestingly enough, I think there's a great opportunity here for investors to come and listen to what actually is litigation finance and the facets to that category.
I would recommend the event to people who are trying to understand the category, and maybe some asset allocators who like a high risk investment and are interested in being ahead of the pack.